Hi, everyone. Hope you're doing well on your second week, and I'm so proud of all of you. You're getting everything in, and your discussion posts are wonderful. I'm still getting through grading them. As I mentioned, they're due on by Sunday, and I'll have this great week to look through them. So just wanted to let you know that everyone's doing a wonderful job in getting those in. If you do have any questions, please absolutely contact me. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what you're going into the first assignment, and then also this course, and then also Concordia. So as far as the next assignment that's coming up, I had a couple calls from different people and a couple email questions about who they need to interview, and because it is coming up, the assignment is due on Sunday. And the purpose of this assignment is to talk to somebody at your district level, or somebody who may be on a curriculum council committee, or somebody that's involved with the actual acquisition of acquiring the textbook or curriculum from someone else. And a couple people called and said, "Well, we don't do that at our school. We just get the books. We order them, on our principal just orders them." Well, then if that's the case, then have the conversation. How does your principal determine the materials they're going to buy? Most public schools have a criteria, have a process they need to go through. And not all people at the district level know that process. So just make sure that when you're talking to someone that you can answer some of the questions to show me that you know that now, that the origin of that material. And in larger districts, there's a curriculum council committee that you have an adoption process. You have a viewing period where people can come in and actually look at the different materials, and then you have pilots programs possibly going on. There's also funding. So the funding is a whole other criteria of how does how do the materials get funded. And sometimes in some districts they save money for a very long time, and they're able to buy the next adoption because they're very costly, as you know, as you're finding out, I'm sure. So put that information in, and then in your written assignment, what I would like to encourage you to do is compare it to some of the things that you're reading. So that's where you're bringing in your references. So you'll be able to reference in your references the person you interview. So you interview someone, you can put them in as a reference, but you're as an interview. You'll see how to do that in your APA guide. But then you're also going to bring in your book. So there's parts of chapter 1 and 2 that you could pull out and talk about the history of curriculum, and how to historically how we've done things. So you can kind of weave it in together. You have your interview, which is modern day practice with historical of the reasons why we do it this way. Why do we have a central purchasing process and things like that? So that will help build that paper, because it's more difficult to write a paper on just an interview, because then you're just saying he said, she said the whole time. But this way you're saying, such as was stated in the book, this is why we do these kind of things. So it just kind of makes it for more interesting paper. Okay, so that's what I wanted to talk about that. Also, I wanted to just reassure all of you that you're going to get through this class. You're going to do well in this class. I know it's overwhelming right now. You're trying to figure out all the times and things that are due. So just remember our discussion posts, your first initial post, your prompt, where you're writing your thoughts, not a response to other people, but your response to the prompt, is due on Thursday. And that is always due on Thursday. So just unless there's a holiday, of course, or something like that, but it's always due on Thursday at midnight. And you need to then respond to 2 other people by Sunday night. So just remember, that's always pretty much in every single class I've taught. That's always the case. So you respond by Thursday, and then you responded to the prompt on Thursday, and then by Sunday you've responded to 2 other people. You're done with that. And then typically you have an assignment due every 2 weeks. But with that said, however, I would say you're always working on an assignment, no matter what. You don't take a week off. It's too hard to catch up. It's too hard in case something happened. Life happens. So always be working on 1 or 2 assignments at all times. Just keep those things going, because some of the assignments are so similar. You're going to be using the similar information that you're researching. And sometimes you're gathering things. Oh, I could use this for this assignment. I could use this for this, especially in the infographics or in some type of timeline or things that you're putting together. You're creating a database constantly, or a file of different resources that you could use. Um, so that's it. And then as far as Concordia goes, I know a few of you are taking 2 classes right now, and that's it's difficult because a lot of the prompts, the writing prompts, are due at the same time. So it is going to be a little bit of balancing, but I'd like to invite you to make sure, just let me know, talk to me. We want you to be successful. We ideally, it's not wonderful to take 2 classes at once. This program's not designed like that. But in order to get you in the queue, in order to get you to be, so you're in line with a cohort, so that you're going to be with every class with somebody in the same group of people. That's why you're having to do this in the beginning of your program. And this does happen. So it's not like unusual, but it's not ideal, especially when you're newly starting this. And then on top of that, you're adding the extra pressures of approaching the holidays. So we will be going through the holidays together. The best part about it is though, you will have the Thanksgiving week to catch up with yourself and breathe, because we do have that week off, and nothing is due that week, of course. So I always look at people who've been in my classes are really excited because it's like, oh, I got a week to not have to do a discussion post, but I can catch up on all the other things. It's kind of gives you an extra week in our program. Okay, so that's kind of it as far as that goes. Make sure you're using proper APA formatting, and make sure you're using references, except for this first one, but make sure you're using in your discussion response or post, your initial post, and make sure you have references. And so that's as far as your assignments. What you're focusing on this time around is you're focusing as far as the reading and the learning. You're kind of going through the history of education, which is kind of neat because you're learning why we have the system we have. And the amazing part about it is our system was created as a result of not having enough workers who were educated enough to get out into the workforce and work in our factories and work to make sure that we have because we became a manufacturing company. I'm sorry, manufacturing country. And we didn't have enough workers who were qualified to have the fundamental skills to work in those factories. So what we had to do is we had to create a comprehensive education system. So we had minimum skills. Those students had minimal skills they needed to meet in order to get those jobs. Well, we're no longer in the manufacturing era. We're now in the information era. We've shifted. Most professions, most jobs have shifted the way they deliver information. Doctors have changed. I mean, anyone who's had surgery recently or gone into the doctor even knows that there's so many things that are digitized, and it's just a lot of things have changed. All kind, almost every single aspect of our society and of our programs and services have changed, except for the fact of education. Education hasn't changed. The scary part about and then the argument I get often is that, well, it was good for me and I'm successful, therefore it has to be good for these kids because it's the foundational skills that kids need in order to be successful. Well, that's great in theory and in practice. However, if you go into any businesses right now and you ask a business owner or you ask a big company, what is it that you're looking for in students, or I'm sorry, in workers, they're going to tell you, they're going to say the ability to collaborate, the ability to be flexible, the ability to be critically thinking about things at all times, and also to be adaptable. So those are because everything else is a skill or a skill that can be taught. So if it's a worker at a factory, they could be taught that skill. We don't teach those skills in school anymore. So of course we definitely need to have students reading and doing mathematical computations, and they have to have a fundamental knowledge of, or foundational knowledge of, science and things like that. There's no argument on that. But there has to be a time in those 13 years that we have kids that we start turning it over and gradually releasing the learning, the pushing to get kids to learn to where they are learning on their own and they are taking ownership of the learning, and that they are involved in group work, meaningful group work that addresses 21st century problems and societal problems so that they understand that their brains are geared to do this type of work. They certainly can't do that after they get out of high school. It's very difficult. I've been out in working in different companies, not working personally. I've been out to different companies, and the big problem they say that schools are sending kids that can't critically think because things have been spoon fed to them. So now they're hiring people from other countries or other places because our students aren't prepared to be thinking critically or working on multiple problems at once or multiple uh, things at once because we're used to teaching in subject areas and by a time clock. As you know from reading the different readings we've had and the different videos you've watched, now you're starting to see that this was all set up for a reason, and that's how our system is the way it is. But that's not the way our job, and that's the way factories were. They were taught you need to do this thing, and you do this, you're going to advance in your career, you're going to move ahead, you're going to learn that widget box, and you're going to go to the next one, and you're going to the next one, and you're going to progress. You're going to stay with this company for 30 years. Well, that's not reality anymore. So what we have to start doing is look at how are we schooling kids? How are we giving kids a place to learn now that's going to prepare them for a career or their future or their or college? So those are the things that we're asking you to look at on this one, and what's the history that has taken us there. So that was a long-winded thing because this is kind of what I do for a living right now. I try to match business skills with what we're teaching in school, and it's been pretty fun. And my learning has completely escalated in what I believe kids need now. So I'm hoping as we go through this course, we'll have a chance to talk about some things. I'll share some of my resources with you. I'll share some at our next online session in the 31st or the 1st, I think, whatever the date I gave you, one of those 2 days. I will make sure that I share some with you that might stretch your thinking as far as how we can deliver content to kids and some resources I have online that I'd like to share with you. All right, that's all I have. I'm looking forward to talking to you, and if I haven't spoken to you yet on the phone, I will be reaching out to you. I'll try again, or I'll try with initially. We have a chance to chat. All right, take care and talk soon. Bye bye.